Threshold training, specifically VT1. What is it? Why should we know it? And how do we find it? Stick around, we're going to answer all those questions and more and show how it can help you improve your training. What's up guys, welcome back. My name's Taylor. I'm a personal trainer, nutrition coach, and CrossFit Level 2 coach. And today we're going over Ventilitory Threshold 1 or VT1. And first, let's start with explaining what it is. VT1 is an exercise intensity marker that is defined by a certain heart rate. Now this is specific to each individual, so mine may be different than yours. It marks the point at which we're using an equal mix of carbohydrates and fat as a fuel source. Now we can tell when we're at VT1 during training when our respiratory rate increases and our breathing becomes audible. There's also some other physical signs like rib cage elevation. Now this is an aerobic test where our body is using oxygen to break down fats and carbs as a fuel source. Finding VT1 allows you to dial in your training specifically based on your heart rate zones that you find during this test. And this can allow you to be more efficient in your training and help you progress quicker over time. And once you find VT1 and VT2, which I have another video on and you should go watch after this one, you can strategically plan your workouts based on your zones and heart rate. So it's individually customized to you and not based on anyone else's metric. This allows you to optimize your training and see progress more quickly. All right, let's talk about how you find it. So in this test, we incrementally increase intensity every 2 minutes until a steady state heart rate is achieved. And what that is basically when our heart rate levels off after that intensity, then we try to perform what's called a talk test. Now, the talk test is basically just reciting a phrase from memory or talking continuously for about 10 to 20 seconds. And a positive talk test is when that becomes challenging and we'd rather not talk. Now, this is not something where we should be heavily out of breath. VT1 just marks the point where we start to increase our respiratory rate during training and talking becomes challenging, but not impossible. We repeat the talk test at the end of every 2-minute segment, and once we've gotten to the point where talking becomes challenging, we've found VT1. Once we've reached this point, the test is complete. We need to immediately make note of what our heart rate was and take some information from the machines. If you're using a rower or a bike erg, we need to mark the damper setting and what our wattage was at. If you're using treadmill, make a note of what speed you were at. Now, to perform this test, we can use a treadmill, a bike, or a rower, which is what I used here. And we're going to increase that intensity every 2 minutes. If we're using a treadmill, that equates to about half to 1 mile per hour. And if we're using something like a bike or a rower, we're going to go to 15 to 25 watts every 2-minute increment. Recording our results helps us for when we repeat this test in the future to see if we're making any improvements in our cardiovascular system. Now that you've found VT1, you can calculate your zones based on your heart rate results to plan out your training for the week that is specifically dialed in for you. Easy days, you're mainly going to be in zones 1 and zones 2, and harder days, you're going to see more of zone 3 and zone 4. Alright guys, that was everything on VT1. I hope you found something in there beneficial to use in your training. If you haven't already done so, make sure you watch my other video on VT2 to help tie this all together. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.